Yo, what's good, everybody? In today's video, I want to talk to you guys about exactly what the title is, and it's the game, or in this case, the game that you were never meant to be. Meaning, devs thought, like throughout the gaming history, especially 90, 2000, that people weren't that into gaming, so therefore probably they were trying to make the games last longer by making them like not super hard. By today's day and age, they were, if you actually research by the time that you were a kid and stuff, they were actually super hard. Why? Because not many people were in that era. And they actually made the game super hard. So let's say you bought a game for like $60 or whatever. The game would actually take you a long time. So therefore you money getting other games, so on and so forth. Then you have a hard ass game, therefore you would buy another game maybe for a family, play with your brother, your sister, with cousins or whatever. And then that game, since it was a two-player game or whatever, you would buy another game that was also a hard game. Most likely keep on repeating the cycle of that. So they actually thought, since not many people were into games and weren't that popular up until the 90s when the release of the NES console. So they were actually scrambling for budget or stuff like that, and they couldn't manage huge games like we have in today's day and age. So what they do was make the game super hard. So let's say if a game had 12 levels, 10 levels, instead of you beating it in a day, 3 hours, it would actually months. Why? Because there was research online. Oh, I'm in this level, get past this part. So you can talk to other people as now because of the internet. So games were harder and you had to spend actually time good so you could actually finish. And since games were actually shorter, memory capacity like that, so you actually had to hours upon hours by playing in every step of how to Y and Z. But I'm gonna give you a list, show you a little bit of fine footage, say things talk about through a video of the games that were actually throughout the 90s, 2000 now nowadays you weren't actually, which is number one for the original NES Battle Frogs, which was there was a level. Well, according to devs, you were never meant to go past level 3, a regular person, because the game was like super hard, and only like a handful of people were 11 or 12, because the game was, like I said, super hard. Also, there was like hard coded things into the game that actually made it more difficult that people only found out throughout the year with the resurgent boom of the internet. Another game was Pac-Man, which there was a level meant to be, I think it was called like the killer level or whatever. And there was another game and there's a couple of games. I know that most of you haven't probably heard of Battle Frogs. Probably they actually either remade it or they made like a modern version. It was like super hard. And then also there was a lot of games in the 90s that were hard coded devs, not a hard boss, not a hard level, but it was like wall guarded for regular people not to go past that level. Why? Because, like I said, limited budgets, games weren't super popular in the 90s, and they had to actually account for having ones whoever could afford it. So they actually had to, the replayability in the game as far as possible, have to constantly keep the same. And since the internet back in the days, and there wasn't a community built around said game, you could actually go on a forum or get together with your friends and stuff like that to talk about how to beat said game. You actually had to put in the hours and work to actually get past whatever or beat whatever currently we're able to. But like I said, the Battle Frogs, which was mainly I think one of the hardest games. That one and the Lion, or I think the Lion King and Battle Frogs were actually the hardest game in the 90s forever. And actually up until I think 10s or stuff like that, even people couldn't have possibly get the info actually. But until actually someone got whatever it is, the devs didn't want people to the devs didn't actually beat. So actually someone, but they actually got to solve whatever the devs intended on the raps for forever, I guess. And actually, the game wasn't called Battle. It's called Battletoads. Came out and like actually up until it got re-released. I think not many people actually game. So I think even through emulate, even people then couldn't actually, even being good player, good video game couldn't. So that's actually another thing that was huge because I said budget constraint. People didn't have access to game, money to buy for game, popular and stuff like that. So, and like I said, not many people even got past level 3 on Battletoads, and like only a handful level 12. I think Battletoads level 3 is called the Turbo Tunnel, something like that. Whatever it is. If not, I'll put it in or whatever. And level 12, yeah, I only have gotten to that level or even past that. And actually, I think one of the devs from Rare that actually worked the Battletoads got interviewed years later. He was actually surprised that people were actually completing. I said the game was hard coded regulars, like I said, train, budget, but that's just one dev. right? Actually, no. There's actually a lot of games in modern era that are meant to be coded like that, where I spend a lot of time or research even. So yeah, like I said before, Pac-Man had a level where it was just a kill streak. It was like hard coded that you couldn't actually get past it or beat it. I think it was level 256 or stuff like that, or something like that. I don't actually think I just put actually the game actually for that level. I think it was yeah, and actually another game that was hard coded beatable was Donkey, the original, the one with Mario going stairs, and it was that one hardcore beatable. And I would come to modern era games that actually were not meant to be beatable. Start with the Dark Souls series, very hard game by name. Also the spiritual successor, which was Elden Ring, also not how do I not 100% achievable of another game that was like that was Getting Over It. Out of that people trying to get over it, the dude in the cauldron trying to sell with sledgehammer or whatever. That was another game that was super hard, that was beatable by people. I know that only a handful have beat that. Another game like that that is meant to be not beatable per se, but it's Escape from Tarkov, hard coded to super hard game where if you're into it, sure, but if not, you're probably past whatever progression type they have in the modern era that are coded or made. And it's because the devs are coding the game to be as hard as possible for people, especially in the modern game era. A lot of people raging throughout the game, seeing them banging on their keyboards, breaking their computers to, I guess, 10, have a big replayability factor for the game. But in reality, not. It's a game that is not, well, these are games that are not if you're trying to play Mario type game platform or Kirby type game, or whatever games that you are to it, these games that's another hard coded things that unless you are like the 0.0000001% of gamers that actually the difficult, the hardness of these games meant for the average Joe, for regular folk. These games are meant to, I guess, get better. Stan, if you want to put it that way, get better with failure. Like failure is a big part of these games. That's why the games are so beloved and beloved and because I guess get good gamer or whatever. But yeah, this is why these games are beloved, because they incentivize you to replay the game or the level. This is not meant for everybody, like I said, are not these type of gamers that are like, let's say, masochists in this case, put it that way. But yeah, failure is part of the code itself. That's why the devs built around set walls that way. So what happens when a dev builds a wall around a game? Someone actually tears it down. What happens then? So okay, all games had limits. Arcades weren't meant to go forever. So what actually happens when circumvent whatever it is that's holding the game back or the player back, the failure it's coded in. But I mean, what happens in modern games? Because they have big budgets, they have a lot of developers test for everything, right? Do they? Like for example, for Battletoads, the wall became a ramp, meaning that the game has a world record beaten in literally 5. Imagine that. So hard that it became actually so goddamn second way that someone found a way to eat it, well, in 5 minutes and has the world record. There was actually someone called Billy Mitchell, and then later Twin Galaxy verified players who pushed past the kill screen. The hardware wasn't for the Pac-Man, yeah, level 250. Yeah. And actually for Getting Over It, speedrunners, the game there. Why? Finding ways to circumvent the system, that the way the game was built around it, trying to find a way to exploit it like that to actually under 2 minutes. So in modern games and in modern era, or the technology era, call it, people actually look for these types of failure built into system created to put trap on a constant loop. You play this, play it, you die, come back and replay it again. So the wall, or the wall coded around the game, has become a target for actually be and actually get past, show people that these games that weren't mentioned are actually beatable. Not by regular Joes expressed before, but if you actually want to beat the game, if you actually put in the hours and get training on said walk around, so that when you are able to. So what does that mean for you, people watching this video? How do you think this was meant for you as a video to teach you that some games that you thought or you rage quit it, you thought it was impossible, are actually regular people like you are actually beating and are showing the devs that whatever walkarounds and whatever things they are trying to hold people under it are getting beat by regular, even though they weren't. As for Battletoads, the game was beatable. Rare, the company behind it, just would. As for the kill screen on Pac-Man level 256, the walls, the target that the company never expected people to target and actually with the assumptions that they had, people actually weren't gonna get past that, and actually the credits assumptions that players did. And in modern day games, devs build these walls still. Just call it. I know the difficulty. Just call it difficulty. I know that for Elder Elder Scroll, what Elden Ring, and for Dark Souls. I know Dark Souls company said anything about said things, but I know games like Silksong, the successor to Hollow Knight, the game was so hard even for people that are this types of that even the devs had to lower that. But like I said, these walls are still being built today's day, and the devs just call it difficult. Choose from, I guess, easy, medium, normal, hard, or whatever, nightmare in Elden Ring case, or whatever the case. But this just shows you that these types of walls get beaten by people that didn't get the memo that this walls were built and people just push past the limits until they get broken. Like I said, these are just hard-coded walls that people find workarounds build around game. As for the games that you think are unbeatable, some people have maybe 2 hours, and maybe it's time for you to put in the hours. So actually think, or the devs say it's actually up to you. And as for you, what games quit? What games made you rage quit and never played it again, or actually uninstall? So actually, let me know in the comments today, guys. And that's it. And as for me, guys, that's gonna be this week's video, guys.